that will endure. Through the ages, stories sing. In the Mahabharata.
It's been some time since I actually posted a story, and today finally I'm continuing with the Mahabharata, with the tales from the Mahabharata. We have learned in the last few stories about the birth of the Pandavas, the birth of the Kauravas, and even before that about the brothers of Bhishma, about how Shantanu met Satyavati, got married, and how Bhishma struggled to keep this kingdom of Hastinapur going as his young wards were growing up. We learned about the unfortunate death of Chitrangad and how Bhishma was burdened with the kingdom. Even as Dhritarashtra and Pandu grew up, got married, and essentially had their own children. We've learned about all of them, but we have not really learned about Bhishma. And it's important that we do so because the story of Bhishma has an enormous bearing on the Mahabharata. I believe it was he who perpetuated it. Without him, the story would not be there. To me, he is the greatest hero and the biggest villain of the Mahabharata. It's very important that we learn about Bhishma. Not just Bhishma. Pandavas and Kauravas were brothers, and we have learned about their birth. The 102 Kauravas and the 5 Pandavas. But was that all? No. They had another brother, and his name was Karna. And today we are going to also tell the story of Karna, which will come in the next episode. This one is about Bhishma. Bhishma's other name was Deva Vrata. Behind me flows the Ganga, the mother of Bhishma. Ganga, who has so many stories about her, who flows in both the heaven and the earth. Down the river, down this way, there is a place called Hastinapur, which was ruled by a great king called Pradeep. Pradeep had a son called Shantanu, who took the throne after Pradeep. Shantanu was not just good looking, handsome and learned, he was also a great warrior, and he captured the entire of North India and put it into the empire of Hastinapur. And yet, the people were not really satisfied. Oh, don't get me wrong, they loved their King Shantanu. But Shantanu did not have a woman. He was not married. And they were worried of what would happen to the kingdom after Shantanu. And all they brought in, including Pradeep's ministers and the wise men of the kingdom, they started matchmaking with all the beautiful princesses of RIVERBANK or Bharat Varsh. Shantanu was not fascinated by any of them. Shantanu said, look, I will get married, but I really need to find the woman that I fall in love with. Give me my time. And so Hastinapur left him alone. Shantanu was a wise king, but he had one habit, or one vice, as it were. The vice to go hunting. Every once in a while, to relax, he would go hunting, and then in the evening, after the day's hunt was done, he would rest by the Ganga. Shantanu did not get married for a reason. There was this woman who used to come in his dreams, a beautiful woman of ethereal beauty and nature. Shantanu was actually looking for that woman. One day, after he finished his hunt and came beside the soothing waters of the Ganga, he saw a woman of ethereal beauty, that very woman who came in his dreams. Shantanu could not control himself, so Shantanu brought her close to him and proposed to her. He said, I don't know who you are, but I've fallen in love with you, and I want you to be my queen. The woman said, fine. But I have a condition, O king. You will never question me. You will never ask me about my past, about who I am, what my name is, and you will never question anything that I do. Shantanu was besotted, and so he said, fine, I will never ever question you in anything that you do. And so they got on his chariot and came back to Hastinapur, and the people were very happy. They could see that she was not a normal woman. She obviously had great antecedents, her beauty, her grace, the way she talked, the way she cared for the people. They were all extraordinary. It was as if a goddess had come down and become the consort of the king. And Shantanu, so far as he was concerned, he was madly in love. There was a great wedding. Months together, all the kings of Aryavarta came here, all the kings of Bharat Varsh. There were great celebrations, and Shantanu was madly happy. He manifested in his happiness in not just spending time with this lady whom he called Ganga, because he found her beside the Ganga and because he was forbidden to ask her name. But not just that, he put his heart and soul into the welfare of his people, and Ganga supported him. This lady whom he called Ganga. A year went by, and Ganga came and said that she was pregnant with a child. There were wild celebrations, month-long celebrations in Hastinapur. But on the night she was going to give birth, she disappeared. Shantanu looked for her high and low till a guard told him that he had seen the queen go towards the forest. And just as Shantanu was getting on his chariot to follow her, she returned. But her child was not with her. She said, I had given birth. Shantanu was just going to ask her what happened to the child, but then he remembered the promise that he had made to her and did not ask. A year went by. Shantanu did not question her. He was still madly in love with her, and she got pregnant again. And this time, Shantanu was happy again. Hastinapur was happy again. But when the child was born, she disappeared yet again, and this time Shantanu followed her. He saw this lady, whom he called Ganga, go through the forest and onto the banks of the great river Ganges, and float the child, drown the child in the waters of the river. Shantanu was devastated. Ganga saw him standing there. Ganga came to him. Shantanu did not ask anything, and Ganga held him close in her arms. And it was as if Shantanu melted away. He did not even think of questioning her after that. But this happened 6 more times. And on the 6th time overall, the 8th time overall, Shantanu stopped her as she was floating the child down the river and said, why are you murdering my child? Ganga was stricken. You're a murderess. Who does that? Who kills her own children? Can you please stop doing this right away? And Ganga was hurt. It was as if she was going to lose her temper, and then she quieted down, stroked Shantanu's face, said, let me tell you a story. Sit down with me. and the child was gurgling in her arms. She handed over the child to Shantanu, made him sit down. Shantanu clutched onto the child as if he was clutching onto dear life. He sat down and Ganga told him a story. Years back, when you were not born in a former birth, Shantanu, you were known as a great king called Mahabharata. Those were the days when gods from the heaven and people from the earth used to mix freely, and Mahabhishek was invited for a function to heaven to the court of Indra. And he went there in all his splendor and sat on the right side of Indra. And Ganga came there, the great river Ganga came there, and it was love at first sight. Mahabhishek fell for Ganga, and Ganga fell madly in love with Mahabhishek. The entire court could see what was going on, and they did not approve. How? Exactly how would a goddess get married to a man? So they cursed both of them. They cursed both of them that they would be given to a life of tragedy, that Ganga would have to come down to earth as a normal woman and get married to Mahabhishek. They accepted their curse. Mahabhishek came back. He died eventually without getting married to Ganga. Ganga still flowed by because she's the eternal being. Shantanu was born, and when Shantanu went to the river one day, he met Ganga, and that's how they met. And Shantanu felt a sense of worship coming over him. He realized then, because with her powers, she allowed him to look into the past life regression as it were, and Shantanu could see, but then Shantanu still had questions. He said, but why were you killing our children? Okay, I understand that you're a goddess, and I feel that, but why were you killing our children? And Ganga said, that's a part of another story. There is a great Muni called Vashisht, and of course, Shantanu knew that. Vashisht had a cow called Nandini. Nandini was a very beautiful cow. It is said that her milk could make men immortal. There were 8 Vasus in the heaven. They were demigods. They were gods, but not quite there, but they were demigods. And the Vasus and their wives once came down to earth, high up in the mountains, down that way near Gangotri, for a picnic. And that's where Vashisht's ashram was. And their wives saw Nandini and were besotted by her. Vashisht had gone out to collect wood or something of that sort, and they demanded their husbands should go and steal the cow for them. Now, the Vasus knew exactly who that cow belonged to, and they said that, look, this entire mountain range belongs to the Munivar, Vashisht. And we really don't think we should be going and stealing their cow. But their wives challenged their manhood, challenged their godhood, as it were. They said, what kind of gods are you? You can't even get a cow because your wives want it. You don't even love us. Being thus provoked, the Vasus, led by a Vasu called Prabhasa, went and stole the cow, and Vashisht immediately knew what had happened. He came back in anger and cursed them. Cursed them that they would come down to earth again as humans. They would never be able to leave the earth, that they would be mere mortals. And they were stricken. After all, they were demigods. They were the Vasus, and they pleaded with him to forgive them. Vashisht calmed down, relented, and said, okay, I can't take back the curse I've given, but let me make it better for you. You will all be born as mortals, but You will die the moment you are born, so you'll go directly back to heaven. But you, Prabhas, he said with kindness in his eyes and his voice, you, Prabhas, you led the entire effort, so you will have to spend a lifetime on earth as a mere mortal. These Vasus were relieved, and they said exactly how things are going to happen. And Vashi said, go choose your mother. You will be able to choose your mother. And Vashisht went away from there. The Vasus stood by and looked around, and they saw the beautiful stream of water coming down Gangotri, and they knew that was Ganga. And they said, who better than Ganga, who was a god on the earth and in heaven, to be our mother? And so they worshipped Ganga, and Ganga came by and they pleaded with her, and Ganga relented and said, fair enough, you will be born of me. Ganga also knew that she had that curse to come down to the earth. That's how, Shantanu, the children who were born to me were killed, and this is the last one. This is Prabhas. Our lives together is over. We cannot be man and wife anymore. An ancient divorce, as it were. You question me. I have to go back to heaven. But fret not. Sooner or later, this son of yours will come back to you. Wait for that day. Shantanu pleaded with her. She wouldn't listen, and she disappeared. Shantanu cried out loud. His screams covered the mountains and the forests. And yet Ganga was gone with the child. Shantanu went back to Hastinapur. He spent 16 years ruling the kingdom without his consort, still madly in love with the woman he met. He was sad. There was something heavy on his heart. But that sadness, that heaviness, did not hurt the kingdom. On the contrary, it brought in calmness to his nature. It brought in wiseness to his nature, far beyond his years and his age. 16 years passed by. The one thing that he did not leave was hunting, but now his hunts were different. It was that of a naturalist. It was that of a scientist. He would go into the forest and observe and spy on animals, look at the way they lived, what they ate, how they coupled, how they bred. And he would take down notes. He became a naturalist of sorts. One day, 16 years later, after a hunt, he came down to Ganga, which he would do very often, and take a bath, because that soothed him, that gave him the feeling that he was in her arms. And he dozed off right in the river. And suddenly he had a feeling that she was right beside him. And he woke up with a start and looked around, and she said, oh, so you have not left hunting. Shantanu got him and said, so you've come back. Can we go back to our Hastinapur and rule as king and queen? He said, that can never happen, Shantanu. I will love you forever, but I can't come back to Hastinapur. And he knew what she was saying. He knew what she was saying. And he looked around and he saw that the Ganga had stopped flowing, that there was no water in the Ganga. Just beyond, at a distance, the Ganga was frothing and fuming, but not being able to flow forward. The Ganga was stopped by an amazing network and filigree of arrows, of golden arrows, which was holding it back. And he looked at Ganga and his wife and said, what kind of devilry is this? And it was not a very vexing question. He was happy. He did not know why, and he was smiling. Who has done this? And she laughed. And suddenly there was an explosion. The filigree of arrows holding back the great river burst open, and the Ganga came down in a spate, in a tidal wave, and riding that wave right on top, comfortably as if walking on water, was a young boy, a handsome young boy who was smiling and laughing and looking at Ganga and saying, "Look, Ma, what I have done." And his mother, standing right beside Shantanu, was laughing as well. And she called out to him, "Deva Vrata, come here." And Deva Vrata jumped off the wave and came to her and Shantanu. Shantanu was wildly happy. For some reason, he knew that this was more than it seemed. Ganga said, "Deva Vrata, meet your father Shantanu." Deva Vrata prostrated himself on the ground and touched Shantanu's feet. Shantanu just picked him up and held him as if he was holding on to dear life. It was a poignant, touching moment. Ganga said, "He has been taught the Vedas by Vasishta, Veda and Vedangas. I have begged Parshuram, who never teaches any Kshatriyas, to teach him the martial arts, and he is an expert in it. He is 16, he is your son, and he has come back to you as I promised. Now I have to go." Deva Vrata knew, Shantanu knew that the time had come. Ganga disappeared. Both father and son walked hand in hand back to the chariot and came back to Hastinapur. Shantanu had never been happier in his life, and Deva Vrata was the perfect son. He was made the Yuvraj, and he took over the reins of the government from his father, allowing his father to spend much more time in his pursuit of naturalism, in his pursuit of preserving the forests, in his pursuit of the environment. That was the story of Deva Vrata, who later on became Bhishma. Refer to my past stories for that. Because Shantanu had found a new meaning in his life. But he went on to meet Satyavati after that, which led to Deva Vrata becoming Bhishma. Deva Vrata was a man of destiny. A destiny that affected the entire land of Bharat. From the north to the south, the story of Bhishma is one that defines the Mahabharata. This is Sutradhar, the storyteller, signing off for the day with the story of Bhishma, the Deva Vrata. Like, share, and subscribe. Write comments. Tell me what you want to hear. Till the next time, where you will hear the story of the birth of Karna, stay curious, because it is all about stories.